Hey everybody, Michael the Librarian of Magic here, finding and cataloging the magical and pointing you to it. I have returned this time with a short reaction, review, recap, video, whatever you want to call it, of the Disney original film Togo, The Untold True Story, starring Willem Dafoe. I got a chance to watch this over the weekend, and I thought I would just give a short video about my thoughts and impressions of the film. My overall impressions of the movie are that it was very enjoyable. It was entertaining. It was harrowing. The acting was very good. Willem Dafoe does a great job of sort of playing a stoic, uh, sort of grizzled dog sledder. And all of the supporting characters do a really good job as well, including several people who I believe are of Inuit descent, or at the very least Native Americans um, in the Inuit roles. So that's really cool. Um, the movie is a true story, um, based on there was a diphtheria outbreak in Nome, Alaska in the mid 20s, 1925, I think. And all of these kids end up contracting diphtheria, and many of them are sick and dying. And there's a big winter storm. It takes place like in a January. There's a big winter storm, and Nome gets cut off from the rest of civilization, basically. And they need to figure out how to get this diphtheria serum to all these kids to help save their lives. And this was a thing that really happened, and the um, government of Alaska and the people of Alaska set up a relay basically to get this serum like 600 miles from like Fairbanks, Alaska, all the way up to Nome by dog sled, and just sort of like pass the serum along. And if any of this story sounds familiar to you, it may be because you are familiar with the story of Balto, or the animated film Balto, which does chronicle this same event. The purpose of this movie really is to sort of get the record straight on some of the heroics involved in this serum run, which is sometimes called the Great Race of Mercy. And basically, this dog Togo, who was owned by this guy named Leonard. Um, Gosh, I can't remember his last name now all of a sudden. But the guy that's played by Willem Dafoe um, is one of the best mushers and best mush teams in the Nome area, and he helps to set out right away to help get this diphtheria serum. Initially, he thinks he's going on a run all the way to this outpost, like a couple hundred miles away on his own to pick up this serum, and then they devise the notion of this relay while he's gone, and there's sort of a dramatic bit where he needs to meet up with this relay, but he doesn't even know that it's happening. And if they miss each other, then he's going to keep going, and they're going to keep going in the other direction with the serum, and that may be in danger of them not getting the serum. Well, anyway, the big heroic thing about it is that Togo, who's his lead dog, is able to help, push through the difficult, stormy terrain, winter Alaskan terrain, to travel almost 264 miles on his leg of the relay to help get this serum back to Nome. And there are some things that I did a little background research on to see how accurate some of the stuff was in the movie, and apparently this movie is relatively accurate. There are some big harrowing moments that I'm sure are visually dramatized, but more or less did happen in real life. There's one point where the team with Togo in the lead they decide to cross this sound, which is like a frozen bay, because it's much shorter. It's like 20 miles as the crow flies, or else you have to go like 80 miles plus to get all the way around the sound. And they're racing for people's lives, so they chance it and decide to cross it, and the ice starts cracking up, and they're crossing all of these ice floes, basically like big chunks of floating ice, and they're dragging this sled across all of these interconnected ice chunks. It's like super duper harrowing, and the dog has to pull the sled out of the water, out of the sound, and all of this. And apparently that really did happen. Togo really did that. Um, and also just the sheer amount that he traveled also really happened. So all of these dogs helped relay it, and most of the dogs involved in the relay did an average of 30 to 50 miles round trip of the entire relay. Togo and his team ran 264 plus miles of that entire thing, by far the largest chunk, by over 200 miles, the largest chunk of distance run in that relay was run by Togo. And basically, until this has come out, or until they started publishing some articles like in Time Magazine back in the early 2010s, this story was relatively unknown except for among the hardcore mushing community and, of course, among Alaskans who were well aware of what actually occurred. But basically, Togo was the true hero of this relay, and Balto was the dog that ran the final leg, sort of ran the last 30 to 50 miles. And when Balto showed up in the town of Nome, there were reporters and stuff there that asked the guy, the musher, what's the dog's name or whatever, and they told him it was Balto, and then they published all these articles like Balto is the hero dog. And there was a statue built in Central Park because this was at this point became national news, this big national crisis that these dogs and mushers were heroes, but they built this statue in Central Park of Balto, and of course the animated movie of Balto, and of course Balto was involved in this and was a heroic dog. And the mushing team that mushed with Balto, they were heroes, but Togo really did the lion's share of the work, and until now hasn't gotten a lot of the credit. And so this sort of writes the record on that. There's some stuff, obviously, in this movie that's not 100% accurate, and they're not striving for that at all times. But it is accurate enough if that's something you are concerned about or interested in. But if you love stories about animals, survival, dog sledding, um, all that stuff, you're going to really love this one. It's super epic and harrowing. All of the actors do a really great job, including the dogs. You become really attached to all of the characters and all the animals, and just to see what happens to them in the end. So that's Togo. It was a very enjoying movie. It taught me a lot of things I didn't already know, and I suspect that'll be true for a lot of people, and that's a good thing. Because Togo's story deserves to be told, and they finally decided to tell it and talk about some unexplored aspects of the Serum Run from 1925. So that was my experience with Togo. I thought it was really good. Probably the best movie, the best original movie of the three that they've released on Disney Plus so far. The others being the live action Lady and the Tramp and Noelle. I enjoyed both of those as well. I didn't think that they were horrible by any means whatsoever. But Togo, I think, is the best so far. The one that, at least for me personally, I was most genuinely interested and entertained by. I was into it pretty much the whole way through. So that's Togo. I'm sure that there are sites or articles or whatever that could go a lot deeper into the effects of this movie, or what the stunt people had to do, or how much people had to learn about dog racing and dog mushing. When I got done watching this, I looked up a bunch of articles just about Togo himself, and there's a lot of interesting stories about the history of that dog that you don't get generally from this movie, about where he ended up and what the end of his life was like and all that kind of stuff. So if you're willing to do just a little bit of additional reading, I think you will be rewarded by that. If this is a topic that you're interested in, it was sort of a jumping off point for me that pointed me in the right direction, and ultimately I thought this was really cool. So if all of this sounds interesting to you, if this even sounds like something that would be remotely up your alley, I would encourage you to give Togo a watch. I hope this was interesting, entertaining, and informative to you. And helps you decide whether or not you want to watch the movie. I hope that this video put a little bit of magic into your day. I hope that you have had an excellent warm holiday season and that the new year starts off magically for you. And this is sort of my review video. So I will be back as soon as I can, with more Disney Plus original content, all the new episodes for next week. And until then, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.